Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
And welcome to today's show. My name is B. Alan Bourgeois. I will be your host for this show. And of course, the commercial wants to run. We have with us on her Zoom profile, she is called Mom, but her name is actually Cindy Murray, and she writes middle school books. So let's start with your first one, because there's actually three, even though people can only see, well, 2.5, because the third one's hiding there. So let's start with the first one and tell us, why did you write it?
Okay, this is the first one in the book series called The Adventures of Sophie and Scottie. The first book is Sophie and Scottie's Adventures of the Monarch Mystery. And I wrote this book in the whole series because after volunteering in my daughter's classrooms, I realized I wanted the kids to have more options on what to read. And I felt that these adventure books would be perfect for that. So the Monarch Mystery is the first one. And this is where I really introduced the characters and where they live and how the adventures begin, because what they receive is a gift. This gift is an 8x10 picture frame that's covered in crystals. And what happens is Sophie and Scottie get the frame. Sophie thinks it's beautiful. Scottie thinks it's really boring until the picture that's already put into the frame, which they find is kind of odd. The gift giver is their Auntie Jill, and she asked them to not pull the picture out. And what happens is the picture activates the frame, and then it becomes a portal. It grows, it glows, and this is in their bedroom. And it's so big they can't go around it, they can't go over it. And so the girls have to decide. They are fraternal twin sisters. They're 11 and a half years old, and they have to discuss amongst themselves and negotiate whether they go into the frame or not. So it's a really fun beginning to the adventure, and you know, what are they going to do? So they have to decide, and of course they do go through eventually. But things happen where they argue a little bit, because Sophie is the observer and very conservative, and Scottie is the go-getter. She's very spontaneous, and Scottie wants to go through right away, but Sophie does not. And they negotiate so much that the frame goes back to its original size. And then they get really mad at each other. So it's a real fun book.
Now, you started off by saying that you wanted something different for kids to read.
Yeah.
Why that concept? I mean, what was so different in your books versus what's currently out there?
Well, in my books, I decided to put action and adventure, which there are in other books, but I also added a touch of science and a bit of magic. And in the science part of it, say for the Monarch Mystery, you learn about pollination and radio waves, pulley systems. All that is interwoven into the plot. So kids could actually Google that and look into it and say, well, what about radio waves? What is that? And what about pulley systems? How are pulley systems used in other ways? And so that's how I decided that I would kind of educate the kids without them knowing it.
Now, by chance, do you have that information on your website so that they could actually learn from your website all those bits and pieces, or do you direct them somewhere?
I don't specifically have it on my website. I just want them to read my books, but I do always say that there is science in my books, and I get more into that when I go to my author visits at schools. Then I really get into what all the different science parts are of the book, as well as the magic parts.
Okay, so the first one, again, is Adventures of the Monarch Mystery, and of course you have to read it in order to find out how they get back to their home.
Yes.
Your second one then is Adventures of Sweet Tooth, or is that the third one?
That's the third one. Something's Fishy is the second one.
Okay. And so obviously they have to go back into the frame for this story as well in order to have this adventure?
So what happens, they live on a 10,000-acre sheep shearing ranch called Sheer Heaven. So when they get back from their first adventure, they can't just go right back through again because, one, they don't know if they're going to get another picture from their Auntie Jill. So things happen on the ranch, kind of their own kind of ranch adventure that's very real, and there really isn't much magic to that. But when they do finally get the picture, then they need to decide, because this is all happening in the summertime, then they need to decide, are they ready for another adventure? And they have to make sure that everything's okay on the ranch and their chores are done and all that before they really can make the decision to go through the frame again. And there's some very cool things that happen in the frame in the magic part, in that they each get special, I call them talents, that helps them in their journey. And I don't know, do you want me to spill the beans or?
Well, no, we don't want to give the story away. But let me ask you this. In reference to the talents they're getting, is that part of the magic you referred to?
Yes. And okay. Some of the magic, sometimes depending on the situation in the ranch, that talent just may come up for a split second on the ranch.
Now, we have just a couple minutes left of this segment, and I wanted to touch base on the award stickers you have on the books. Tell us about those.
I put my books into 3 different award contests. One of them is the Silver Mom's Choice Award, and that's for excellence in writing. The other one is they've all received the Gold Family Choice Award, which is also, it's excellence in writing, but also it's excellence in being family friendly and kid appropriate. And the other one is the International Reader's Favorite Award, and the first book, The Monarch Mystery, received the Silver Award in the Children's Adventure category.
Okay.
Now,
awesome. We have just a minute, so a quick question in reference to the time frame that these adventures happen. You mentioned that, of course, they have to get a picture from their aunt and stuff, and it was done during the summer. Is this all in one summer, or is it one adventure per year?
No, it's all happening in the summer. And
all in one summer.
Yes, and the timing in the adventure through the frame, that time, the way time stands, is different from how it works at the ranch.
Okay, so I was wondering if when they came back, if time had actually gone by or if it came back to the original time, but don't answer that. Kids got to read it to understand.
That's right.
All right, you have the third one, the Sweet Tooth, which we'll talk about shortly. But for now, how can people find out about you and your books?
Well, they can get on my website, and that's at cindycmurray.com. That's a perfect way to just click around. I have a link to my Sophie and Scottie Facebook page. There's a link, of course, to Amazon if you want to buy it. I'm also at Barnes & Noble and other independent bookstores. So there's many, many ways for kids to find these books, to read a little bit about them, and to purchase them if they'd like.
And as far as finding out where you're going to be doing any book signings or anything, is that on the website?
Yeah, I have a schedule of events, and I do a book signing at a local store here in Texas, where I'm from, up in the Dallas area, and I'm there all the time, and I've sold many, many books through this cute little store. And so I'm there, and then also I'm going to be at it's the Texas Association for Literacy and Education. I'm going to be speaking and exhibiting at that conference the first weekend of March.
Great. And does a Twitter account exist for Sophie and Scottie or for you?
Actually, that's more for me, because I know my readers, especially the parents, because my market are kids, but the purchasers are the parents. So they will want to know a little bit about me. So Twitter has to do with me.
All right. And what is your Twitter ID?
It's just at Cindy C. Murray.
Okay, cool. So we're going to step away and take a break, and we'll be right back.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Indie Lector is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store. Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back. This is the Alan Bourgeois, and we have with us Cindy Murray, who's talking about her middle grade school books. We left off on the adventures of Sophie and Scottie, fraternal twins, who have a magical frame that takes them on adventures. And their next adventure is a sweet tooth of some sort. So, Cindy, please tell us, what type of sweet tooth is this?
Okay. After they come back from their adventures from Something's Fishy, then once again they decide when they want to go through the frame, and it's they wind up in North America, and it's called Sophie and Scottie's Adventures of Sweet Tooth Rock, and there they meet a man. His name is Samuel McSweet, and he is a renowned candy maker. And he asked them that he's really sad because he can't make any more candy. And they're just like, no, that can't be true. Why? And he said, because there's a world sugar shortage. And he's asked the girls to help him figure out what's going on.
Okay. And obviously, of course, they figure it out and stuff like that, but they get to enjoy some sweets along the way?
Well, it takes a while because they encounter a very large grizzly bear, and they also encounter his best friend, which is an eagle that is named Suka, which means fast. And so there's a lot of little adventures and side things that happen before they can even figure out where the sugar is.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you have science in your books. So what kind of science is in this Sweet Tooth adventure?
Okay. The reader will learn about where sugar comes from. They will learn about the freeze-drying process, as well as I touch on the Iditarod. And they also talk about, and actually they do ski, so they learn the mechanics of skiing, so that's definitely in the book, as well as grizzly bears.
Now, I assume that you have done some of your own adventures, including skiing and other things.
Yes.
So a lot of this is from personal knowledge, which is good.
Yes.
You've got the 3 books. What's book number 4?
Book number 4, I'm working on now. Do you want to know the title?
Sure.
It's Sophie and Scottie's Adventures of the Twilight Safari.
Twilight Safari. So that sounds like a safari that's done at night. Is that accurate?
Parts, yes. I'm not going to say much more.
So where are you in the process of writing this book? You've written out the storyline and stuff?
Yes, I've outlined the complete book. And so now it takes a while because there really is a lot of, I need to do studying, depending on what type of science I'm putting into it. I do need to research I do need to, like, I'm still honing in on what their special talent will be, you know, that type of thing. But once you get going, as authors know, you get in the zone and you just go.
Yeah. And that actually brings up a good question, especially for middle grade students and stuff. What is the normal length of time it takes to write one novel?
For me, it's a year. And the reason why my fourth one is taking a little longer is because I've really set back so I can market the first three.
Okay. And with the fourth one getting ready to come out, hopefully in a few months, do you have 5, 6, 7, or how many more books do you plan on writing?
Gosh, I don't know. I would love to write 10. So I have a lot of writing to do.
Now, as you mentioned earlier, all these adventures happen in one particular summer, but are you going to take the readers along, and as Sophie and Scottie grow up, it matches the middle grade school students that are following the book?
Yeah, well, this, like I said, this is for it's not for middle school, but middle grade, which is considered ages 7 to 12. So they're really not going to get much older than, say, maybe 12 and a half or so, because I don't think the reader can really relate to what's going on. These are rated G. They're age appropriate. They're adventure mysteries, which parents love. And I don't want the kids to get too complicated. I just want them to have I want them to be able to solve their mysteries and really enjoy their adventures. And so they're not going to get much older. And the reason why I like this age group is because when I was 11 and a half, I was having a great time. I was riding my horses, which we really didn't talk about the second book, Something's Fishy. But the girls, now that they know how the frame works, their Auntie Jill sends them special instructions on how to go through the frame. And so in the second one, they ride their horses through the frame. And
wow.
So that makes it very interesting, and where they land as the horses jump through the frame. And so it makes it really fun. And I just love this age. So I'm just going to keep the girls this age.
Now, you mentioned in the first book that, when they first discover the frame is magical in its own way and it's very large, you have it set in a room, but obviously it must become very large in order for horses to jump through.
Right, so they have to take their frame out of their room and bring it based on the instructions of their Auntie Jill. They have to bring it to a specific place on the ranch.
Now, is Auntie Jill living close by? Is she part of the farm? How is she getting thrills from all of this?
She is their globetrotting Auntie Jill on their father's side, and she just travels all over the place. She's not married, but she does get married. I won't say which book, and how the girls are a part of that, which happens on the ranch. She just loves her nieces and just gives them different types of gifts for just their hard work on the ranch. It just makes it special. And so their ma and pa really like this special relationship with their auntie, and they just let it happen.
Now, of course, I'm trying not to give away too much information, so please stop me if I ask a question that does that.
Okay.
But you mentioned that the auntie loves to travel, so I'm assuming as she's traveling, she's finding these photos that she feels is a great adventure, and that's why she sends it to them. Is that about right?
She feels that these photos are a perfect match for these girls. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Other than the fact that you wanted something unique for kids to be able to read that's different than what's out there, what else was the reason for you to just start writing? I mean, is this something that has been brewing in your head for a long time, or all of a sudden something happened? What's the story?
Well, I knew I was going to be a writer, and what happened was I went to college and got my business degree, and that took a lot of my time. I worked for a large corporation, I got married, you have kids. But I always knew I was going to write, but I didn't know I was going to write for children. I thought I was going to be writing my spy novel. And then after, like I said, I volunteered with my kids. They're 4 grades apart, and they were reading the same things. And I thought, gosh, I would sure like to give them something, another option to read. And I know I'm on the right track, because when I show these books, when I do my author visits or I'm at book fairs and festivals, I sell a lot of books. So I know that parents are looking for something different and something that's age appropriate. So that I just knew this is what I needed to do. And then also to promote literacy. That's very important.
Especially for young students, no matter if they're middle grade or whatever they are.
Yes.
Reading is so critical for these kids at this time. But you brought up something, so I'm curious about. You mentioned that you thought you might be writing your own mystery or whatever, an adult novel, basically. Is that still in the back of your mind?
It is, and it's really bothering me. So I think I'm going to have to start writing it.
So you got characters talking to you and saying you need to start writing?
Yeah, they're saying, Cindy. Yeah, I have some great ideas.
Do you have a time frame when you hope to start working on that, or?
I actually already did start writing it, and then the girls, Sophie and Scottie, just started taking over. And I got to do one more of Sophie and Scottie for sure. And then I will probably start on my other project.
Okay, cool. All right, well, we're going to take another brief, short commercial break, and we will be right back.
The Best of Eve, recipes from around the world. This was written by Eve, who was born in Holland and lived in South Africa and eventually came to Texas. This is no ordinary recipe book. This has herbs and spices and liqueurs and has a short story about Eve. The Best of Eve can be purchased on Amazon, and it is written by Helen Monday.
The Holy Spirit is gifting our children and grandchildren, and they are naturally able to show God's power to the world. Amazon bestseller Anne Lynn Noble and her granddaughter Carlisle capture insights and learnings of growing spiritually through the pages of Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. This inspirational novel provides perspectives on biblical truth from a young believer and her grandmother exploring spirituality. Rekindle that childlike faith with Glow and Grow in the Grace of God. Available now on Amazon and at AnneLynnNobleAuthor.com.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
And welcome back. This is B. Ellen Bourgeois, and I have with me Cindy Murray, who's written currently 3 children's adventures and or middle school adventure, middle grade. I keep getting that mixed up, and I apologize for that. And you have book 4 getting ready to come out. So as we wrap up this show, please let people know where they can find your books.
Okay, you can find my books at Amazon.com. They're at Barnes & Noble. There's various independent bookstores, so I'm not exactly sure which ones, but if you go to any of them, they can order it. I'm through distribution with Ingram, so they can get it anytime. And you can buy a signed copy through my website if you're very interested in that. I can send you one there. And I think that's about it. Bookstores, Amazon. Mm-hmm.
The usuals. And if they do go to your website and purchase a book, you will dedicate it to whoever they ask for it to? Oh,
sure. Yeah, they would tell me who do I write it out to, and I can personalize it and all of that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And a rough time frame when you're hoping that book 4 will be out?
I'm working on it now, but it will take me a good year. It probably won't be till 2020.
That long, okay.
Yeah, because I have to work with my illustrator, and these are chapter books, so they're the illustration is only on the front and back cover.
Right, and that can be time consuming. Do you have any words of wisdom for anybody who wants to get into the world of writing?
I just say, if you really, a writer needs to write, and if you're daunted by writing a whole novel, you can start with short stories. That's a really great way to go. And if you're not sure about how your short stories are going, have people read it. Personally, I had teachers read my books, my manuscripts, and based on their feedback and some changes, I mean, it was great feedback, and I knew I was on the right track. And so that's definitely what I'm, trying to get the word out about my books and create awareness to teachers and libraries and all that. So when people are thinking about writing, you just do it. And then you'll learn the process of how to get a publisher, or if you want to self-publish. There are two very different ways on how to get your book completed and out there, but those are things you'll learn.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time, and I do wish you great success with that. We look forward to seeing book 4 coming out, hopefully sooner than 2020, but if it is 20 then.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
Thank you, and you have a good night.
You too.
I am Grace Allison Blair, an award-winning author, motivational speaker, and modern mystic. I have combined spiritual and psychological principles in my nonfiction self-help books under Grace Allison and fiction books under Grace Blair. Go to modernmysticmedia.com to find Do You Have a Dream? 5 Keys to Realize Your Dream, and my novel, Einstein's Compass, a YA time traveler adventure.
What started as a love letter to her son has become an international love letter for all parents to their children. Now you can read acclaimed author Shannalise Charbonneau's story to your children. When her son was very sick, she calmed him by singing her own song to him. She turned that song into the book, My Mama Loves Me, I'm Her Little Boy. She wrote 3 more magical books for all parents and kids 6 and under. Available at Indie Lecter, Amazon, and all local and national outlets.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.